Welcome back, Truth Seeker. A few years ago, I speculated Rodgers might sign with the Steelers for the 103rd NFL season. And instead, he's signing for the 106th season. The reason I thought it made so much sense is because of Gematria. Of course, the NFL is rigged by Gematria, the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words, which is a really easy concept to understand when you realize that Gematria comes from Kabbalah, and Freemasonry is based in Kabbalah, and all of the American sports, including football, are credited to Freemasons. In the case of football, it's Walter Camp, who is also a member of Skull and Bones, which also practices Kabbalah. That's why they call themselves Order 322 when the Kabbalistic tree of life is mentioned in Genesis 3:22. Never forget what they did to Alex Smith's leg on the 322nd day of the year. That was wild. With Joe Theismann in attendance, who snapped his leg on the same spot in the field 33 years to the day. Anyway, coming back to this. The reason I thought Rodgers would go to the Steelers back in the 103rd season, which is now happening 3 years later, is because Steelers equals 103, Rodgers equals 103, Jesuits equals 103. Of course, the Rooney family that owns the Steelers are publicly the only Jesuit family that runs an NFL team. And of course, the Jesuits are the daddies of Freemasonry, and everybody plays for the Jesuit Lombardi Trophy. R.I.P. to Vince, who died unexpectedly one day before the 1970 season began at Jesuit Georgetown. But speaking of those Jesuits, that's the other big piece, right? That's the other big piece. Today is the 5th day of the 6th month, and the date numerology is also 56. June 5th, 2025. 6 plus 5 plus 20 plus 25 is 56. Remember, in Gematria, Society of Jesus equates to 56. That's the formal title of the Jesuits. If you're new here, I've written books on how these simple number equations work. It's just based on the alphabetic order. There's 4 base ciphers of the English language: alphabetic order, reverse alphabetic order, both orders with numerology applied. But I also talked about this earlier this year. I said, it's really interesting how the Super Bowl upcoming, with its Roman numerals, if you run the gematria, that it has triple overlap with Steelers. I said, we'll have to see who they get for a quarterback in the offseason. With Trump's big connection to Pittsburgh through attending the game last year, the Butler hoax, all that crap. You just never know, man. The Steelers, they love to do special things with that team. Maybe they get a quarterback that puts them over the hump this year. Maybe Rodgers still has something left in the tank, so we're going to keep an eye on it. Could the Steelers, with the terrible towels, and the fan base doesn't even get the joke, a team that gets all the calls for the rigged NFL with those terrible calls on the flag, those yellow flags, the worst calls ever. That's what the NFL is known for in all of pro sports. It's the worst officiating in history. Terrible towels. But yeah, the Steelers, big beneficiaries of that horrible officiating year in and year out. Anyway, it just couldn't be any more Jesuit. And here's the other thing about Rodgers. He's been the villain of the NFL, and he's been a complete bust ever since he took on the cooties virus, the one that equals 56, coronavirus equals 56. Remember, Aaron Rodgers first stepped out of the closet taking on the virus on the day leaving 56 days left in the year, and he's been ritually humiliated with his NFL career day in and day out, including, tearing his ACL on 9/11 in his debut with the Jets. Yeah, don't forget how it was the Jet Mo Lewis who took out Drew Bledsoe, giving us Tom Brady just in time for the Patriot Act. And don't forget how the Jets won their only Super Bowl in '68, the same year World Trade Center construction began. 911 was made the national emergency dialing code, and Boeing debuted their jumbo jetliner, and Bush got out of Skull and Bones, and Papa Bush was with the CIA back then, and yada, yada, yada. But yeah, anyway, this is a total Jesuit ritual right here. Rodgers, Mr. 103 to the 103 team on the 56th date. This couldn't be any more Jesuit. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if Rodgers can do something, or this is going to be another shaming ritual. So I'll keep you posted. If you're on the Patreon, I'll come to a conclusion before the season starts, see if we can nail another preseason future. We've done it so many times. And by the way, if you've lost track of all the futures we hit this year, college football championship, just a hair off on the NFL, but we did hedge with the Eagles. I had the Chiefs to three-peat preseason. We nailed March Madness before the tournament began. We nailed the Masters for the 6th time out of the last 7 years. You know anybody who hit the Masters 6 out of the last 7 before the tournament began? Rory was 35 years old, 89th Masters. Grand Slam equals 89 the big way, 35 the small way. Of course, we're fresh off smashing the Kentucky Derby. We'll take a shot at the Belmont this week, even though it's at Saratoga. Should they call it the Saratoga this year? Anyway, yeah, we've been killing it this year like we do year in and year out. Oh, by the way, we had the Thunder to represent the West preseason because, again, they're the Sonics team that won it in 79, and this is the 79th season. But anyway, come join us on the Patreon. We'll really break it down before the season begins. Till next time, True Seeker.